Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on PoliWine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. So, I hope everyone had a festive and fun St. Patrick's Day yesterday, and Mother Earth must have been feeling that fighting Irish spirit because she struck Dublin, California yesterday with a 3.9 magnitude earthquake and then came back today to follow it up with a 2.9 magnitude earthquake. So for the city of Dublin, California, it was not the luck of the Irish for you yesterday and today. And once is bad enough, but for it to come back the next day, gotta be very unsettling. And Mother Nature had quite an active week. A major storm system moved across the Midwest all the way to the east. Tornadoes were reported, and it ended up taking the lives of 42 people through its path of destruction. I know that the storms that we had here in the Mid-Atlantic area were just absolutely intense. We had tornadoes that touched around where I live, but we just had intense wind and hail. The hail that we had was just crazy. We were just listening for other sounds because there were tornado warnings around us. And so you hear warnings that if there is an incoming tornado, sometimes you'll see hail. You'll hear the sound of like a freight train. So we definitely saw the hail. We had the wind, but we didn't have any of the other signs, which is great. But there were things that had touched around us. And that was just in this area. We were pretty lucky. I mean, still major storms, some damage. We were pretty fortunate, but not for many. So in this time, in our hearts and prayers go out to the family, friends, and loved ones that were affected by those who had passed in the storm. Speaking of passing, and this story just, it really gets me. The University of Pittsburgh student, 20-year-old Sadushka Kanoki, who is actually from Northern Virginia, just a beautiful 20-year-old girl who just had her whole life ahead of her. Pre-med, you can see her in the pictures and the videos that have been released from the DR. And she just looked like just such a vibrant young woman. Well, there has been a turn in the case. No, they have not found her. She is still technically missing. But the family of the student has asked the Dominican Republic authorities if they could please declare her as dead so they can move on. And they are accepting the fact that the authorities think that it's a possible drowning. The family is coming along to accepting that, and they have requested that the authorities declare her dead so they can start the process of grieving and move on. But there's something, I understand the family's decision. It's a personal decision, and they're doing what is best for them. You can't fault them, but there is something about this story that is very bothersome to me. And again, I said it last week during the podcast. It is very reminiscent of the Natalie Holloway case. And that was a while ago. If you're not familiar with the state, Google it. But quick little catch up. It was a young 18-year-old student went to Aruba with a group of friends, went out for a night of drinking with girlfriends, ended up going to the beach with a guy and never returned. For a long time, they said she was missing, but the guy that was last seen with her ended up many years later, upon another case, admitted that he ended up killing her and put her body in the ocean. And I am not saying that is the case with this University of Pittsburgh student, Kanoki. I am not saying that at all. There are just so many similarities that it's bothering me, and so many things can go wrong on a beach with no cameras. How many people were there? Not just this Reeby guy who was the authorities think that he is the last person to have seen this girl, possibly was on the beach with this University of Pittsburgh student, Kanoki, for the last time. He told the authorities various different stories just because he was heavily intoxicated. Look, everybody there at that scene before she passed. They all went out there. Kanoki, her friends that she was on vacation with, they went out drinking and having a night of fun, which is what you do on vacation, especially with your girlfriends. They came back to the hotel. They all went to the beach. This is from what I'm understanding from reading various sources. And she stayed behind where her girlfriends went back to the hotel, and she stayed on the beach, and she was never seen again. Very similar to the Holloway case. Now, the gentleman who is last thought to have seen her alive has been interviewed by authorities. He was declared not a suspect, but a person of interest. They actually held his passport for a little while, so they could have him readily available if there was any more questions or to help with the search efforts or investigation. The authorities in the Dominican Republic keep saying they believe that this is a possible drowning. The evidence may be pointing in that direction, but there are other people that have been involved that want to expand the investigation and want to leave it open to other possibilities. Again, I understand that the family wants to move on and start the process of grieving. This is just got to be just a parent's worst nightmare, and I understand that you want to move on. It would be so heartbreaking if something came out at a later time that something else happened to this poor girl. And that is my own concern, right? There's just too many unanswered questions. Yes, it could be an accident. Things happen that way. But look, I watch too many crime stories. There's so many stories that come from all over the world, where people go on vacation and go to the beach and never return. I was just watching a documentary not that long ago about this girl who disappeared in Australia, and they said she was a drowning, wasn't a drowning. Another one where this guy's brother went missing and they said he was drowning, wasn't a drowning. It was actually more. So I've seen too many documentaries. I've read too many stories. I would hate for something to come out at a later time that something different happened to this beautiful young girl. Her sarong and flip-flops were found on the beach. It looked like they were untouched, possibly where she last left them. Some believe that could be evidence that maybe something happened since she never returned, something bad happened, of course. Others say that that's evidence that says that she left it there going into the ocean and never returned. So there's still so many unanswered questions in this case. As far as I am aware at this very moment, the investigation is still ongoing. There are various authorities and law enforcement that are involved in the investigation, but it has been put out in the media that the parents of Sadushka Kanoki, the 20-year-old student, that her parents have requested that the Dominican Republic authorities please declare her dead and that it was a drowning, just to go ahead and wrap it up and close it up and move forward. So just so sad. Again, nobody of course wanted to hear this ending. But again, I just hope nothing comes out at a later time. But I hope that her name and this story still out in the news and in social media. I hope if anyone knows anything, any information, to please come ahead, to please come forward. If anyone has any information about this girl's disappearance or whatever may have happened to her, that they please come forward. Their family needs some type of closure. Not to know anything is, again, just the worst nightmare for a parent. Absolutely awful. Now, going to another story where there's a lot of drinking and potentially an accidental death happened. And I am not sure if you are familiar with the case out of Boston about Karen Reed and her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. There was a documentary that was released on HBO Max, and it was called The Trial of Karen Reed. And this is her version of what has happened in the court and her story. But this is what we know now. Now, January 29th, 2022, police and paramedics were called to a scene of an unresponsive male that was laying in the front yard in the snow of this residence. Well, he later ended up dying. Okay? So if you're not familiar with this story, let me just do a quick little catch up for you. So, this woman, Karen Reed, was dating a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. They went out for a night of fun with friends. They were out drinking at bars, and then they were invited to a friend's house to continue to have some more drinks and continue the night of fun. Well, once they got to this house, not sure really what happened, but they were fighting and she left the scene. Okay. And she said that her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, never came home from the night at a partying at their friend's house. Well, she called friends, to go help her find the boyfriend because he never came home, and she was frantic and didn't know what happened to him. So her and her friends go out. They went to a couple places, couldn't find him, and they went back to the location of where the night before that they went to their friend's house to party. Well, they got into a fight. She left and he stayed there. So she went back to see if anybody at that house knew of what could have happened to him. Maybe he got drunk and passed out, whatever. She said every thought was going through her mind. Well, they knew nothing, and sure enough, they found him in the front yard, buried under snow, and he was unresponsive. So they called the police, the paramedics, they showed up, and of course, they take care of him, take him off the hospital, and he ended up dying of his injuries. Now, the girlfriend was arrested for like vehicular manslaughter. He ended up dying, and they didn't know if she hit him or what happened, but evidence from what the authorities gathered suggested that maybe during a fight, she backed up, hit him. He fell due to her injuries and ended up succumbing to the cold weather and dying that way. Well, upon the investigation, there has been inconsistencies in the evidence, inconsistency in stories, and this story has really taken a twist and turn. So there was a lot of drinking. The girlfriend, Karen Reed, says, look, I don't really know exactly what happened in details. Again, I'm just condensing. And this documentary on HBO Max, The Trial of Karen Reed, really goes into her version of the story and what kind of started to take place in the court trial. And it was interesting. So the authorities said they think that he was hit by her car, her backing up when they were in a fight. She drove off. He fell to the ground and ended up dying in the cold. Okay? Either being unconscious, whatever it may be. So this is what the authority thought. So this is why they thought it was vehicular manslaughter. This is what their evidence was pointing to. Well, she was like, look, I was heavily intoxicated. I don't really know what happened, but I don't think I hit him. So when I woke up in the morning hours and I didn't find him, and I realized he didn't come home, I started to panic because that's not like him. And he wouldn't have done that. It's not like him. It was out of a character for him. So she started frantically looking for him. And when I tell you, this woman, I mean, there's a lot of cell phone calls. I mean, you had everything that came out of the trial. So you had cell phone, you had police body cam footage, you had dash cam footage from the police car, you had testimony from the court trial. I mean, it was all there. So it was just really interesting. She's like, I don't really know what happened, but I don't think I hit him. But God, I don't know. So this is where it kind of went into vehicular manslaughter. Well, then the charges were upgraded to second-degree murder because once he passed, the police are like, well, I think the evidence points that there was a hit and run. Okay. So her charges were upgraded to second-degree murder. And it just really just spiraled quickly. So she got this team of attorneys. And interestingly enough, the team of attorneys that worked on the Kevin Spacey case just never know where these high profile attorneys come from or in what cases they've done. It's always fascinating to find that out. But those are some of her powerhouse attorneys. That's some of their history there. So, and very successful. So she has them. And when these attorneys were starting to go through the case, go through the evidence, go through some of the body cam footage, they're finding inconsistencies. And then one of the attorneys gets this anonymous call from someone, and they said, you need to look at what happened inside that house that night, because there is a house full of cops where this whole thing took place and no one's looking inside the house. So I think you need to look inside the house. Now, the scene of the crime was outside on the lawn. This is where the authorities, the Boston police, this is where their evidence has been collected, and the prosecution is saying that the crime happened on the front lawn. Well, this anonymous call says, you need to look inside the house because I think something happened inside the house. And upon the research, and they had a data forensics specialist come in and go through all the text and timelines and calls and cell phone data and computer data and all that stuff. And the data forensic specialist calls and says, someone in the house Googled how long does it take for somebody to die in the snow, something to that effect, at this time at like 2 something in the morning. And his body wasn't found for hours later. So something suspicious there. But everybody inside this house has their story's consistent, right? So something is there. And then, with the police body cam footage and the dash cam footage and, testimony from the paramedics, the cops, people on the scene, it was all over the place. Now, with these inconsistencies in evidence and testimony and all of the statements, the defense for Karen Read is saying, well, you know what? There are a lot of police officers involved here. So we think that this could be a cover-up. This evidence could support maybe a cover-up, that something else happened here at this scene. It wasn't Karen Read that hit him. It wasn't a hit and run. She didn't flee the scene and ended up resulting in the death of this man. We think something else happened in that party because the autopsy, we believe, doesn't support that he was backed up by a car and hit him and scratched him. We think something else happened because it looked like he got beat up. He looked like he was in a physical altercation. That's what some people will say reading the autopsy report. And it's just, so the fact that it turned from manslaughter to second degree, and now the defense is it's a cover up by the police. It is all over the place. So it goes to trial. They go forth with the city goes forth with the second degree murder. It goes to trial. 2 months in the court. It goes to the jury to make a decision. The jury goes to the judge and says, we can't come to a unanimous decision. We just can't do it. So the judge says, go back to deliberation, try again, which is, from what I understand, unusual. So I think this was on a Friday I was reading. So then on Monday, the juror comes back and says, we still cannot come to a unanimous decision. The judge says again, go back, continue deliberation. The next day, the juror comes back and says, we are not going to be able to come to a decision. It's not happening. So it was declared a mistrial. Okay, there's that. Well, now, prosecution said, we're going to trial her again. It was a mistrial, so we are going to trial her again. And we're going to go to trial again. Well. Now it is. Now her defense attorney was saying, well, we've kind of got a little bit more information. So they're unpacking it a little bit more, breaking it more down. Well, once the jury came out and was able to speak, find out the jury did actually, out of the 3 things that they had to decide, they said 2, they didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt. But on the third one, they couldn't decide. So the defense was saying, well, you can't, well, they technically, even though it wasn't a written decision, it was a verbal decision. So this is what I'm understanding. And if anybody wants to correct me, please do. This is what I'm trying to break down from the documentary and what the attorneys were saying. It's a lot. The defense said, well, we can't try it again because that would be double jeopardy. So if they said they believe she wasn't guilty on the major charges of like second degree and this and that, well, we can't try her again. But the prosecution were like, well, no. It was not written. It's not valid. So yeah, we're going to try her again. And it seems like that worked, and they are going to try her again. And her trial's coming right up. And I think it's coming up in April. So it's right around the corner. But this documentary on HBO Max, and there's only been two episodes that have been released yet. And again, this is her version. This is her side of the story. But she's prepping for the second trial that's coming up. And when I was saying going through this evidence, she does not look great at all in this case, in the evidence, in this documentary. She's very hot-headed. She's very high-tempered. The voicemails that were released that she left him, I mean, just psycho, maniac on the other end, screaming at him, vulgarities, just absurdities. I mean, it's holy moly. I mean, wow. And she said, I was drunk, I was pissed, but she gets pissed a lot. She seems very bratty. Doesn't make her guilty. Right? So she might be guilty. She may not be guilty. She, of course, is declaring her innocence. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. I understand when you see both sides, you hear the evidence from both sides. And like I said, this documentary is pretty much her side. But when you hear some of the stuff that came out during the first trial, you're like, wow, that's pretty damning. And then you hear their case, like, oh, well, okay, well, they refuted that pretty well. That seems a little discredited. I can see where you might see her guilty. I could see where you might find innocence. I could possibly see where there's a cover-up. I could see where this could be a very difficult call for jurors. Absolutely. I can see where it is very much divided the city of Boston. I was interested in the trial before. Now that I've watched the documentary, some of it, like I said, there's only two episodes that have come out, but I am definitely going to be watching this when it comes to trial, the second part. Second time around. This has happened before. There was a case And do you remember there was a documentary a while ago? God, where was it? It was on Netflix or something like that, called The Staircase, where this guy's wife fell down the stairs and she drinking and stuff like that. She fell down the stairs and the authorities thought that he did it. Maybe he shoved her down the stairs. And it was a mistrial and they tried him again. And that was a really fascinating documentary, fascinating case. I mean, it went on for years. I think it was like 12 years in total. This thing went on. The documentary, like I remember, I think it was a French film team that was, doing this documentary for that one, The Staircase. And they're like, well, I remember when the producer or the head guy was doing the documentary, it was like, when I read this American story, in France for the first time, I was like, wow, this is what a crazy story. I'm fascinated by this. I want to document this. He's like, I never had any clue that when I started this very small project years ago that I would be finishing up like 12 years later. So is this going to be a similar case where it just goes on and on, delays? I don't know. But this case, she even said this trial is justice for John, because she said, I want to know what happened to him because I don't know. And just there's a lot of drinking and accidents can happen. And there's just so much uncertainty. And that's why I go back to the student in the DR. There's just so much uncertainty. And when there's a lot of alcohol, you don't remember, details are foggy and unclear and just too many holes in the story. You never really know. And there's just always casts of doubt. And it's just so unfair to the victim. Ultimately and unfortunately, it's just so unfair to the victim because they don't really get the justice that needs. There's never really a clear answer what happened to them. And you don't know if the person is really innocent or guilty that's on trial for the crime. So, I mean, you can have your own personal opinions, but at the end of the day, proven by the preponderance of evidence, right? So there we are. But I am fascinated by that court story. I'm fascinated to see where it goes. There are a lot of major high profile court cases coming up this year. We've got this one, the Karen Reed case. We have the Diddy case. We have the Idaho murder cases coming up. I gotta tell you, Nancy Grace and Beth Harris, from all those crime shows, it is going to be a very, very busy court year, I guess. It's going to be very active, that's for sure. Now let's get into a little bit of some entertainment, some fun. So yesterday on St. Patrick's Day, we had the iHeartRadio Awards and looked fun. And of course, you had my guy, LL Cool J, as a host. God, I love that guy. He's just, I love LL Cool J because ladies love Cool James. Big winners, awesome event, big winners. Great to see all the musicians and everybody else that was there. But we had Taylor Swift, Mariah Carey, of course, Icon Award, Gaga, the Innovator Award, and was it Taylor Swift? Was it the Tour of the Century Award? So just to name a few out of many, a lot of big awards, great songs, great show all the way around. And the iHeartRadio Awards look so awesome and so fun. I would love to go one year. So if you're listening, Mama wants to go. I will be a side reporter. I'll be on the red carpet, whatever you need. I will be there. Now, let's move over to our closing wrap up into the wonderful world of Bravo. Now, we all love Peacock, Bravo. Traitors of this season of the Traitors, it was so good. We had the 4 winners. We had Gabby, Dolores Catania, the first housewife to be a winner on the Traitors. We had Dylan and Ivar. Well, on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen the other night, we had Gabby and Dylan on there. And Gabby was saying that she or the rest of the winners had not received their payout from winning the traders. And she was frustrated. She just kept repeating, well, we haven't got paid, we haven't got paid, we haven't got paid. People, the sources there said it's really a paperwork thing. They have to split it multiple ways, and they're just trying to figure out how to divide it and get it. So that's what I have heard, or kind of logistic kind of thing. But she was saying how they haven't got paid, and she wants the money. She wants the money. So pay the traders. That girl earned every penny. So did Dolores. So did Dylan. Still don't know how Ivar coasted the whole way, but pay that girl the money. I think that the next season, because they're going to have to mix it up, right? I love the season of the traders. Last season was good. They had a couple of new things that they threw in to kind of spice up a little bit. But I think that next season, I don't think we should know that the audience should know who the traders are. I think that the audience should be just in the dark as the other contestants of the show. I think that we should try to figure it out as well. They're in the throes of it. They're trying to figure out who's lying, who's deceiving. I want to figure it out too, because it's so easy to sit back and, as a spectator and say, well, as you know who the traitor, it's so obvious when you already know who the traitor is. Well, I would like to figure it out too. I want to be suspicious of everyone else in the house. I want to try and read the little subtle clues, and sometimes not so subtle clues, that the traders leave or other people leave to like throw the scent onto someone or off of themselves. So I think that's what I think they should do next season, is a little kind of turn for the traders. But please pay Gabby her money, and Dolores and Dylan. And I don't really know how much the royal family has. Does Ivar need the money? But pay him the money too. I don't know. It might be getting tight over there. I don't know. The economy's not so great in the UK from what I understand. So who knows? Who knows? Now, speaking of debts owed, and in the Bravo universe, have you heard this Bravo feud going on about Ms. Dorit? Dorit Sutton's comment when she called you Porit the other week. Don't make that come out true. Now, I know you are going through some dark times right now, Dorit, with this divorce with PK. It sounds ugly. It sounds like it's going on for a really long time. Kyle may have got you beat. Ashley and Potomac has everybody beat for, I think, probably one of the lengthiest divorces. Maybe Kenya on Atlanta. Kenya's had a pretty lengthy divorce as well. And Kyle seems to have that one kind of beat so far. But as she said in the last couple episodes, she's seen the writing on the wall, and it's time to get the ball rolling on the divorce. Now, I don't think it really has happened yet. I think they're still separated. I don't think any paperwork at this time has been filed for divorce. I don't think so. It's still in that weird place. But Dorit, I know you're going through the divorce. I know it's really yucky. I know that I have read online, and there has been swirlings and rumblings that about financial instability with you and PK. He has bankruptcy issues before with the gambling. There's been other stuff. And she's even admitted during that time was ride or die with him. So that's why it was so heartbreaking when he turned on her with this divorce before the 10 years, by the way. But now, so I think it was Jeff Lewis's podcast. Everything always goes down on Jeff Lewis's podcast. But Tracy Tudor from $1 Million Listing LA let it slip that Dorit didn't pay her stylist, and I don't know if it was her hairstylist or just her stylist. The guy, was it Chris? And he has let it slip that she didn't pay. So it's just coming out. She's not paying her bills, and the noise is becoming louder and louder and louder. I do feel bad for Dorit, but she was trying to shut it down on Watch What Happens Live the other day. She looked great. But it's just unfortunate. You've got more Bravo feuds. I mean, not only are you just getting through your fight with Kyle, and you're coming through on the other side, it looks like, which is lovely. But now you've got a fight going on with Tracy Tudor with $1 Million Listing. Now you've got one going on with your stylist. What else is happening, Dorit? I'm sure it'll come out. It'll come out, especially if the divorce does happen and goes throughout. It's all going to come out. So we shall see. And speaking of divorces, Miss Portia on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Wow. Portia's going through a divorce with her soon-to-be ex. Her ex is a story in itself. I do miss Candy. But maybe Candy will come back. I know nobody wants it. I know no one wants it. But I think we still need a Kim Zolciak cameo once in a while. She showed up a couple years ago, right? Didn't she show up to like a dinner or something like that years ago? I think she did. We need Kim Zolciak for that. She can get a few dollars on a check for showing up. But I think that's nice because she's still a mess. She can still bring the drama. Even when she shows up for like 5 minutes, she knows the assignment. She knows what to do when she's there. She's a Bravo veteran. But, I mean, her drama never ends. And I think we need a little sprinkle in of Kim Zolciak once in a while. I really do. If we're getting Portia back, I think we need Kim, especially if we're going to lose Ken. I'm enjoying Below Deck Down Under, Captain Jason and his kimono. Loving that. What a mess this crew is. Vihan, we're looking at you. Okay. What's going on with you? Summer House. I didn't think I would enjoy you this season, but I am. But I want to get into a quick second of Southern Charm. Watching Shep Rose get dumped and him spiraling from this is very entertaining. We have watched him just be a gross for quite some time, just totally using women everywhere he goes. So to see a girl just totally use him the way he's done that to so many, what a full circle moment. And for a woman to watch another woman do that, to a guy that's just done that to so many women, we're all watching it with a little bit of sigh and a golf club going, well, it was bound to happen and she did it better. I said it the other day, and when Levis said it the other week, when Madison was on the phone with her in the Bahamas, at the amazing Bahama that I love so much, when she said, these 40-year-old men that have been playing this game for a really long time, when they find somebody younger that they're really into, and these girls know the game better and play them better than the guys ever played the game, it makes them feel old and in their 40s. And it's an awakening moment for them. It's a punch in the gut, and it makes them feel old. And it's a bitter pill, that's for sure. And it's kind of entertaining to watch. I'm enjoying it a little bit. So I didn't think I was going to enjoy Southern Charm, but I am. But what's going on with Whitney? What a mess Whitney has been. Miss Patricia, I always find you interesting to watch. And just to hear you go, Whitney, Whitney's a mess tonight. He's had so many bourbon. He's so drunk. Watching Miss Patricia cracks me up always. I don't always agree with her, but she cracks me up. But Whitney, you're a little bit of a mess this season. So don't come in there judging people when we're judging you right now, Whitney. Messy. But I am enjoying it a little bit more than I thought. Well, thank you so much for everyone for joining us today on PoliWine. So please, if you have anything that you want to discuss, talk about, correct, please follow us on Instagram, and please follow PoliWine. Follow, like, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast in your feed. Thanks so much and have a great day. See you soon.